Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley and today's Monday, which means it's Mental Health Monday, where we'll... Oh my fucking god, I cannot talk. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley and today is Monday, which means it's Mental Health Monday, where we will be covering various topics having to do with mental health, wellness, and personal growth. Before I begin, I just want to start by saying I am in no way a licensed professional. I do have a background in psych, but if you are needing some professional help, I suggest you go find an actual professional, and I will leave the suicide hotline right here for anybody that needs someone to talk to right now. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. So first of all, Happy New Year. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Some people love New Year and some people it's like a really sad time. And you know, before I get into the topic of the video, I always gotta tell a little story on why I chose what I chose. So I was working, I think it was yesterday night, either yesterday night or the night before. All the days blur together. And I came home and I was just feeling so down. And I was like, I had a fine day. Like nothing happened. I don't understand what was going on with me. And I realized I'd been working less because I'd been picking up so many hours. And this was the first week where I hadn't been working as much as I had previously. And I was like, am I really sad because I'm working less? You know, like most people get burnt out from working too much. And I kind of like, I feel like I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not constantly working. Anytime I have free time, I feel like I need to be doing something. And I feel like no matter what it is I'm doing, like I'm not doing enough. Like I could clean the whole house and I'm not doing enough. I'm filming videos. I'm coming up with new things like painting, all these things all the time. And I just felt like I'm always trying to achieve and it's never good enough. And I feel like it reminded me of a video that I watched a few years back. Well, it wasn't a few years, it was probably a year back. If you guys watched Struthless, it was on his channel and it was about Impostor Syndrome. So that's when I was first like introduced to it and I was like, I totally get all of that. Like I can relate to all of that. And I kind of watched the video, I applied the information for a little while and then I forgot about it and moved on with my life. But yesterday when I started feeling like that again, I decided to revisit the subject and do a little more research on why it happens. So that leads me to the content of today's video, Imposter Syndrome. So like I said, I first kind of like heard about it from the Struthless channel, but based off today's research, I've learned a lot of new things. So what I learned was the term imposter syndrome, or what she called it, imposter phenomenon, was coined by Dr. Let me see if I can get it. It was coined by Dr. Rose Chance. And she defined it as an internal experience of intellectual phonies. You hear that? Internal experience of intellectual phonies. So basically, it's like everyone thinks you're great and you don't believe it and you think you're a piece of shit, basically. Like, that's how I sum it all up. It's like the feeling that, you know, you're not good enough in the things that you do well. It's like you've convinced people that you're doing them well, but you're not doing that great, kind of thing. Some characteristics of imposter syndrome are feeling like you fool people into thinking that you are better than you actually are. A constant fear of being found out, and a need for validation, but the inability to accept it when it's given to you. So I was reading all of this and I'm thinking, like, I can relate, but like, why? If I'm doing all these great things and everyone thinks I'm so wonderful, then what deep, dark inner workings are, you know, contributing to the thought patterns and the beliefs that I have? Like, why do I feel like it's never enough? So I kind of decided that I was going to read her article on it because she did like a research paper or whatever. Not or whatever, it's a big deal, but so I decided to read her research paper on it, and basically it focused on women who feel like they're women who overachieve and never feel like they're doing enough. So that was like the basis of the paper, the focus group that she chose, but like I feel like it applies to everyone. So I just kind of wanted to share the information that I learned, and maybe you can relate to some of these things. So basically in the article she suggests Basically, in the article, she suggests that most people who struggle with this feeling come from two main backgrounds of families. The first background is one where you feel like your accomplishments are constantly being cast aside. So let's say you come from a family where you're the less accomplished sibling. So, your family's super into sports and your sister is on the volleyball team and the basketball team and the whatever other sports that you can think of, all of them. She plays all of them, right? And you work super hard, like you have a full-time job pretty much, and you are in school and you're busting your butt, but you're not getting the same validation because they don't place the same value on what your accomplishments are as they do on your sister's sports accomplishments. Or let's say you're not doing as much. Let's say you aren't working full-time and you don't get good grades. Maybe you really struggle with school, but one day you bust your ass and you get a B on a test and your family's kind of like, good job, that dismissive good job that you give to little kids. Like they show you their scribble and you're like, wow, that's really pretty. Anyways, like that kind of thing. Yeah, so then you get that and you feel like your accomplishments are not as important. You don't even necessarily have to have a sibling. You might just have family with high expectations, like, the family that always expects you to do everything well, or in fact, like kind of expects that you're not going to meet their expectations, that sort of thing. So it's not always a comparison to someone else. It might just be their own expectations that you can't meet. So when you do accomplish things that might be big to you, to others, they're minuscule. So you start to condition yourself to believe that, you're not really great. And then people who maybe aren't in that inner circle are seeing you do all these things and they think you're fantastic, but you just don't feel like it's true based off what you've been conditioned to see and believe. The other background of family that Chance talks about is the family that praises everything you do. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, how is that a problem if I want to encourage my kid or like praise my loved ones? But it can be invalidating because if you are in the kind of family background where you get constant validation for the smallest things, it starts to feel like it doesn't really matter how you would have done. Like if you did something and you didn't try that hard, your family's like, this is amazing. This is the best shit I've ever seen. My kid, Einstein. It kind of like makes you feel like a fake because it's like, especially if you're someone who compares yourself with other people, you're kind of like, I don't think I really deserved that. I'm not really, like my parents will say I'm great with anything. Think of it like your partner. You go to your partner and you're like, do I look fat in this? And they're like, no, you look beautiful in everything, no matter what size you are. It's like comforting, but at the same time, you probably aren't expecting honest opinions from them. So you kind of just feel like, yeah, you're always going to say that. It doesn't mean as much. I mean, it does because you're your partner and you love your partner, but like, you get what I'm saying. But it doesn't always have to be praising you for quote unquote false accomplishments. It might also be the family that's kind of like, you can do anything. Like you could be the president, you could go to the moon. Like this is positive. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. The trouble comes in where if you're actually good at most things and you're busting your ass and they kind of have this image that you are just like naturally good at things, it puts the pressure on that you can never not be good. And so when you do accomplish things, it's almost like a fear-driven accomplishment. Like I can't fuck it up because everyone's expecting me to be amazing and I'm actually not that amazing because I have to actually work really hard and they think I'm naturally this good at stuff, but I'm not, kind of thing. So if you believe you're supposed to be good at everything with minimal effort, if you do something and you're not instantly perfect, you're gonna kind of feel like a failure. You're gonna feel like you let everyone down. Maybe feel like you've been exposed or that you're found out, and maybe you're not as good as everyone thinks you are, which none of that is true, but that's just kind of where the foundation of that might come from. So those are the two main family backgrounds that she talked about that might impact why somebody might have imposter syndrome or might have these feelings. So being raised with these backgrounds might buy you the ticket for the imposter train, but just like with everything else that stems from your childhood experiences, it does not keep you on the ride. It's your own behaviors, adaptive behaviors that you develop along the way that continue to perpetuate that way of thinking. So we're going to cover 3 of the ones that she talks about in the article and then go into that a little bit. One of the patterns she talks about is something that I like to call the front of intelligence. This is where you're so worried about seeming unintelligent or seeming like you don't know what you're talking about, that you do the heavy lifting. You know, you do the research, you try to understand, you try to learn, so that when you talk about it, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. And then you get that positive feedback, like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. How'd you know all of this? And then you feel good for a while. You're like, okay, I feel better. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I feel smart. But it goes away very quickly because you're always trying to, like, it's like a hamster wheel sort of situation where you're always trying to know enough to seem smart enough to know more. And instead of realizing that you actually are intelligent because you're doing the work and you're learning the information, you start feeling like you're a fraud because you're constantly bringing in this new information to try and prove something. You don't realize that you're actually learning something. Like, you actually know this now. You're not a fake because you keep learning. That doesn't even make sense when you like say it out loud, but that's just how your brain twists it. And this thinking trap gets you because no matter how hard you work, you're going to negate your accomplishments and you're always going to feel like a fraud. And that's why it's a cycle. So you are afraid of looking stupid, you learn the information to not look stupid. You get the validation, so people think you're smart. You're afraid, once again, that you're going to end up looking stupid, so you learn new information to not look stupid. And you just go, and you go, and you go on your hamster wheel. So, very counterproductive. Another pattern of behavior that can leave us feeling like imposters is a term that Chance refers to as intellectual flattery. Intellectual flattery is when you'll sometimes go along with opinions or ideas that you don't believe with because you don't want to offend anybody or you don't want to step on anybody's toes. You'll probably keep your opinions to yourself because you're afraid of looking stupid, especially if the majority disagree with you. So this one was really hard for me in my childhood because my dad, I felt like, was out there just telling all his stories. And I felt like I'm the kid and no one's going to believe me. So I almost felt like I was in this like parallel world where like his truth was the only truth. And it was not even the truth. His lies were the only truth. And it leaves you feeling, minor lighting issue. We're just going to pretend it didn't happen. It leaves you feeling like you are living in like this like fake world, like kind of like I was saying, because you feel like you know the truth, but everyone else only has this certain perception, or you feel like you're kind of just like bending to everyone else's will. So it just like, you just don't feel like you feel like you are an amalgamation of the things that you're supposed to be. So that obviously is going to make you feel like an imposter. And it's even worse when you start to disbelieve your opinions. Like, you start to downplay them because you're like, well, you know, like, I'm not very smart and this other person might be. And it's like, you're literally living a life that you don't truly believe. So like, how you gonna feel good? You're not. You're gonna feel off. And that's a really hard pattern to break because even once you see the truth, like, you've been conditioned for so long to think a certain way, it's kind of hard to do anything with that once you kind of figure out what's happening. The final behavior pattern we're going to talk about is charming your way through things. So like I said earlier, this article was focused more on women who are like high achievers or whatever. So of course the article was talking so much about girls who basically sleep their way to the top or flirt their way to the top or whatever. But it's not just girls. I've worked with plenty of guys who try to flirt their way, you know, through work, or to get you to do something for them, or to help them with something, or like get you to do their job when they don't feel like doing it. They'll just be flirty and friendly. And the reason that this can help, or this can cause you to feel this imposter syndrome, I feel like that's such a weird word, like to be like, this is why you feel like an imposter, but that's what it's called. The reason this can make you feel like an imposter is because you start to put all of your value in your ability to charm or manipulate people, as opposed to the actual skill set that you need for whatever it is that you're doing. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter how charming you are, because charm only gets you so far. If you're good at what you do, you'll stick around, and if you're not, you won't. Because we all know that one person at work who's like really great to be around, but they don't work there anymore because they never did their job. I know you know that person. I know you've had that conversation, like, hey, you remember Ted on the third floor? Like, Ted was great. He used to bring us coffee all the time. It's just too bad that he never showed up to work, ever. Like, Ted might have charmed his way through with some coffee, but at the end of the day, if you're not doing your job, you're not going to stick around. So if you are concerned that you are kind of sliding by on your charm, then maybe stop trying to bribe people. Like, I get that it's easier said than done, because I understand that it's probably not just like, I just want to do this because it's easier. It's a learned behavior. It's a pattern of behavior. So maybe start by, like, you know, asking for honest feedback, because it doesn't mean you have to stop being friendly or doing the nice things if that makes you more comfortable, but ask for honest feedback. Try to figure out where you can actually advance, as opposed to just like trying to get people to like you. Try to get better at the actual task instead of just building better relationships, which are also important, but like, you're just gonna feel a lot better if you know that it's your work that's paying off, not your smile or your butt or whatever, your coffee, whatever it is you're using to get ahead. So those were the 3 behavior patterns I wanted to talk about. We talked about the 2 family backgrounds, and I hope you guys kind of have a better understanding of what exactly imposter syndrome was. Because that's Truthless video that I watched a year ago, it was great. It really helped me kind of like figure out what you're supposed to do once you realize that, but I don't think it really helped me understand what it was or what caused it. So this is more about the why, and then next week we'll talk about the what do we do. So that's all for today's video. I hope you learned something. I hope you found something helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you feel like you related to anything. Share this with somebody that you feel like could use the information. Help your girl out. And I will see you guys next week with suggestions for what we can do to deal with this, because this shit ain't easy. And it's a new year. It's about time to stop being an imposter. Thank you guys again for watching.